welcome viewers. Thank you for tuning in with us. This is the 16th episode of S.A.L.T, Sharing and Learning Together, a combined class project of Master of Divinity second year and Master of Arts in Clinical Counseling first year of Oriental Theological Seminary. This is a part of our educational journey under the course An Introduction to Pastoral Care and Counselling. We of course are all students, and therefore this video should be treated for educational and awareness purposes. In today's episode of S.A.L.T, we will be talking about pregnancy issues. One of the many problems that seems to be becoming more and more common in our generation, like the common cold or common flu, is the pregnancy problem and the issues related to it. This problem, if not properly discussed and dealt with, we know can severely damage marriages and also the individuals that are involved in it. Nobody knows, just how many people out there are going through with the struggles of pregnancy and the issues surrounding it. It is also impossible to determine how many couples try in vain to bear children but are unable to do so even after repeated attempts. Others, on the other hand, conceive a child but have their pregnancies end in miscarriages, most of the time bringing devastating disappointment and loss. While news of pregnancy can be a great source of joy, there are many challenges that comes along with it. On the other side of it, not being able to conceive or an unplanned pregnancy can also bring its own share of challenges. So in today's discussion, we will be taking a look at the issues that surround pregnancy and try to offer understanding, some helpful advices, and most importantly, try and impart hope. So joining me for this very important discussion, I have with me Ms. Leah Yepto and Mr. Tetorovi Rio. Both of them, of course, are students of Oriental Theological Seminary, currently pursuing their Masters of Divinity in the second year. Well, to begin the conversation, can any one of you address the issue that the changes that comes with pregnancy? Of course, it is the woman who bears the baby, but that does not mean that there are no roles for men. There can be some certain responsibilities, certain lifestyle changes, or for that matter, even emotional changes that pregnancy can bring along with it. So can any one of you give the viewers some understanding of the challenges that comes with it? Yeah.
Okay, first of all, thank you for having us. Pregnancy, we see that pregnancy is a life-changing journey for the woman who's pregnant. So we see that a woman is pregnant for approximately 9 months. So these 9 months can be split into 3 categories. That is the first trimester, second trimester, and the third trimester. So when we talk about the physical changes, in the first trimester, that is the first 3 months, that is when a woman experiences or notices missing of period. And some of the physical changes, the early signs of physical changes can be morning sickness, extreme fatigue, mood swings, cravings to certain food, and headache, weight gain or loss. Some women experience a lot of discomfort, while others may not. So coming back to the second trimester, that is months 4 to 6. Once a woman enters the second trimester, they may find it easier than the first. Like extreme fatigue or morning sickness may lessen or completely go away. However, they also notice more changes to the body. During the second trimester, they may feel the baby moving, and for the first time. So that's an exciting moment for them. But however, they may also experience aches and pains at the back, abdomen, and thigh. Some women also notices dark patches on their skins and swelling on their hands and feet. So the third trimester, that is months 7 to 9. That is the final stage of pregnancy. So during this time, discomforts that begins in the second trimester will slightly continue with some new ones. So as the baby grows and puts more pressure on their internal organs, they find it difficult in breathing, and they had to frequently urinate, and also they find it hard to sleep at night. This is normal, and it should go away once they deliver. Some experiences like tender breast, which may leak some kind of like watery or liquid pre-milk, which is called colostrum. They also notices the baby moving lower in the abdomen. So that is the time when they realize that it is time for delivery. So when coming back to the emotional changes, yes, of course, women does experience emotional challenges during pregnancy because of the big shift that is happening in their body and in their life. Many women are happy and excited if their pregnancy is planned. However, it is also sometimes common to feel worried, scared, or sad. Many women also experience mood swings. For a moment they're happy and suddenly getting upset. Many women also worry about the baby's health, the pain of giving birth. Some women also may feel lonely and overwhelmed if they didn't get much support from their families or friends. So because of these problems, relationship also changes. When a woman is pregnant, some couples may draw closer, while others may face stress. So during this time, support from family, friends, or church can make a big difference during this time of hard time.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ravi, for giving us a very technical and at the same time emotional, psychological, and at the same time relational aspect of understanding the issues surrounding pregnancy. Listening to you, it doesn't sound comforting at all, comfortable at all. It sounds very uncomfortable, especially for our opposite gender to go through this pregnancy. That sounds very uncomfortable. I think as a man, and also this is also for those who are listening back at home, if you are intending to be a father someday, then I think we really need to keep these changes, or for that matter, these discomforts that our spouses have to go through in life, in the midst of trying to bring new life in the family. So I think that's a very good reminder for us. So thank you for that. Well, talking about pregnancy issues, that's like an umbrella statement, and under that we may have many other factors. So when we talk about pregnancy issues, there must be some kind of certain categories. So can you kindly enlighten the viewers and also us the categories surrounding pregnancy issues and what could be some of its possible effects?
Okay, there are two categories of pregnancy issues. The first one is those who wants to have children but cannot, and the other one is those who don't want children but gets pregnant. So in the case of those who want children but cannot, this may be because of infertility, where a couple is unable to conceive or have children even after trying for a year without birth control. It may also include those who have experienced miscarriage, which is the loss of a baby early in pregnancy or stillbirth, meaning where the baby dies late in pregnancy or shortly after birth. So these situations can cause deep emotional pain like anxiety, depression, sadness, guilt, and shame. Many people, especially women, may feel blamed from the society, even though infertility can affect both male and female. So these struggles can also affect their marriage life, their relationship, self-esteem, and their faith. So coming to the second group, that is people who do not want children but gets pregnant. This usually happens because of unprotected sex, lack of sex education, or peer pressure. This is especially common to teenagers. In places like Nagaland, young girls who become pregnant often face fear, shame, and pressure to hide their pregnancy. Many are afraid of being judged by the families, churches, or societies. Some may also consider abortion, which can cause emotional pain and regret. So, due to shame, many girls do not seek medical help, which puts their health at risk.
Okay, so Rio has already mentioned strong valid points, but however, I would also like to add some points. So you see, when it comes to couple who wants to have children but cannot, so sometimes it's not only infertility or miscarriage, but then it's also conditions like ectopic pregnancy. So what does that mean is that a baby is actually supposed to grow in a mother's womb, but in this condition what happens is that a baby starts growing in the fallopian tube. So fallopian tube is it's a tube that connects ovary to the womb. So since the baby is supposed to grow in mother's womb, so the baby it starts growing in fallopian tube, so which can cause internal bleeding to the mother since it's growing at the wrong place, and so due to that it can also threaten mother's life. And even for the second one, the ones who don't want children but still gets pregnant. So you see, it is also very common that to happen even in married couples. Yes, of course, it's more common in teenagers and all of it, but then it's also very common in married couples because sometimes even they're mentally not prepared due to financial issues and their health issues. So when they conceive a baby, instead of celebrating it, instead of welcoming the baby as a joy, they feel more burdened, and that adds more responsibilities and yeah.
Well, thank you so much, both of you, for giving us a very clear understanding of the categories of pregnancy and also some of its effects. I think that is as clear as it gets. So when we talk about pregnancy issues, I'm changing the conversation a little bit here. I want to come back to our Christian belief, the biblical perspective of it. We know the Bible promises us at least that God wants us to be fruitful and to multiply. So given that statement and given that promise, some couple who are trying to have children and are not able to conceive, or maybe say they lose their child late in their pregnancy, those couples may feel betrayed by God. That may be a setback for the faith as well. But we know that Bible also addresses issues of infertility and at the same time pregnancy issues as well. So can you please enlighten us about the pregnancy issues that the Bible addresses? Yeah.
Okay, I think that's an important question. I think the audience need to know, or perhaps even us, we need to know what the Bible says or talks about pregnancy issue. When we look into the Bible teaches that children are a special gift from God and are seen as blessing. In Psalms 127, it says that children are a reward from the Lord that shows how God values life. However, the Bible also recognizes that not being able to conceive or not being able to have children can also cause deep sadness. For example, some biblical figures like Hannah, Sarah, and Rachel they also experience deep pain and sorrow because of their infertility. So they often cry out to God for help. We also see in the Bible that pregnancy outside marriage is not God's plan. As we have seen in the story of David and Bathsheba, where their sins led to a series of consequences. However, we also see that life begins before birth. Verses like Jeremiah 1:5, Psalms 139, it tells us that God knows us even when we are in our mother's womb. So this shows that God is actively involved in our development from the very beginning. However, the Bible also shows that pregnancy is not always happy and easy experience. For example, Rachel died during childbirth, reminding us that pregnancy can sometimes bring pain and loss. So through all these stories, we also see that God deeply cares for the struggles of women during pregnancy.
Well, thank you, Rio. That's so comforting to know that God is so much involved in our lives, and also even in issues like pregnancy. Thank you for reminding us the joy that pregnancy can bring, and also at the same time the challenges that comes along with it. And also to people out there, this is a good message, that especially if you're going through a situation that you're not being able to conceive, the Bible has already addressed the issue that you are not alone in the journey, and that God understands your pain and your suffering. So thank you for making that biblical perspective very clear for us. Well, we have talked about the categories of pregnancy, some effects that it can cause, and we also talk about the biblical perspective of the issues surrounding pregnancy. But what are, and especially when you talk about infertility, this is not something that is new, except that it may be becoming a little bit more common in the present time and generation. But we know that it is as old as human history. So, having said that, what are some of the misconceptions, that we even still have in this modern age surrounding the infertility issue, and how can we address them?
So you see, when we talk about childlessness or infertility, this is just not a medical issue, or it's not just a medical concern. It's also about how the society views in it. So in many cultures, and including here in Nagaland, children are often considered as a blessing, and also a way of continuing the family's name and lineage. So when a couple is unable to conceive a baby, the society, they start stalking, and this can come off very casually, like when are you going to have a baby? Or for example, a couple that has been married for a long time, the society, they even tend to ask questions like, you have been married for a long time, so why don't you have a baby yet? So for a couple that is already silently struggling, all these questions that are constantly asked, it can add more burden, and it can affect them more. And then socially, it often becomes as a gossip. So people, they tend to start talking, and they tend to start whispering, like maybe she's barren, or like maybe they have done something wrong, that's why they're not able to conceive a baby. So some even think it's a punishment from God, and most of the time it's only the woman who gets blamed, even if medically it's the husband who has fertility issues. And so the society, without knowing the real reason behind it, they tend to blame the woman. So you see, that kind of thinking creates stigma, and then it also makes a couple feel isolated. And so due to that, some couples, they even start to avoid going for family functions, or like even for church programs, because they already have that fear, like what if they go and then like even they don't know how to respond to those questions. So yeah. So how do we address this? I think the first step that we all can take as a community or as an individual is, maybe change the way we talk. Like instead of passing judgment or like gossips or constant questions, like instead of asking all those constant questions, we need to show more compassion, and we also need to remember that a couple's worth is not tied or defined by whether they can or cannot have a baby. And then secondly, we need to cultivate sensitivity in our conversation. Instead of pressuring the couples with constant questions, we can respect their journey and give them that space. With that said, I guess it's also very important for us as an individual, to create awareness, and then to create awareness and educate ourselves that infertility is not a curse. But then, infertility is not a curse, and that it's a medical and emotional struggle, and that can happen to anyone. God forbid, but it can happen to me and you as well. So, lastly, what we can do is we can encourage the couples by affirming them that, even though they're unable to conceive a baby, like they still have so much to contribute to the society, by nurturing the younger children at the church and so on.
Well, that's crystal clear. The misconceptions surrounding pregnancy issues and also the remedial measures that you have mentioned. That's very clear especially for people listening out there to process, and to put it out in their daily practice. Like you have mentioned, as a society, sometimes we tend to become too intrusive with our questions, and also sometimes very judgmental. And like you have very clearly said, this calls for sensitivity, and I think this talk will go a long way in fostering that kind of sensitivity and positive dialogues in our society. Pregnancy, we all understand, is a very personal issue. None of us are carrying any other's children, so I think if we can be, like you have clearly called for, be sensitive in our conversation, that's gonna help people suffering with these issues a lot. So thank you for that. Well, we know it's a harsh reality, and we know people go through this. But it's not in our power as caregivers, as counselors, to help people conceive a child, or for that matter, to even help them find purpose in their miscarriages and all. But as caregivers, definitely there are some ways that we can help them out. So, what are some of the things that we need to keep in mind, when people approaches us for comfort and counseling and such issues, and what are also some of the ways that we can direct them or help them out in their issues? Yeah.
So you see, one of the first things that we need to remember is that when someone comes to us with pregnancy-related issues, whether it be infertility or miscarriage or even unplanned pregnancy, we need to be aware that they're already going through a lot. So as pastoral caregivers, our role is to meet them where they are and then respect their story. And so the first step that we can take is to create a safe space, a place where they can be honest without fear of judgment, and then without fear of judgment, and sometimes, just knowing that here I will not be blamed or shamed, that can itself bring a healing. So you see, many times society has already gossiped, like I mentioned earlier. Many times society has already gossiped, blame, and added all those careless comments. So if they come to us and we repeat the same things, and like if we repeat the same patterns, it's only going to crush them further. So our words need to carry encouragement, and hope. But at the same time, we also need to be very careful with our words, because often when someone is struggling, or often when someone is going through a lot, people tend to immediately say, just have faith, or like, just pray more. But let's be honest, I guess when we're already like so broken, maybe that's the last thing that we want to hear. So it can feel as though their faith is not enough. So instead of just giving advice, or like instead of just giving advice, maybe we can show faith through action. And so that is what we call ministry of presence. So we may see, like when they come to us for counseling, we, even as caregivers, even for us, we may not have all the answers, like, and then just not that, but then we cannot make someone conceive, or like we cannot erase their loss. But what we can do is be there for them, because sometimes the most pastoral thing we can do is to simply be there, listening to them, and then even sitting in silence when needed, and let them know that they are not alone. And so through this, slowly the trust is built, and then that's where we can gently guide them back to prayer and hope. So practically, what does that look like? See, for example, if a woman has gone through a miscarriage and she comes for counseling, instead of saying things like, "Don't worry, you'll have another child," maybe we can acknowledge her grief with simple words like, "I can see how painful this must be for you." See, sometimes silence feel like rejection. So even just like I said earlier again, even just listening carefully, or like giving her space to share her story, can make her feel supported, because through that safe space, she begins to realize that she's not carrying that burden alone. And in cases of unplanned pregnancy, instead of rushing to condemn, a pastoral approach means walking alongside that young woman or a couple. So, and what we can also do is, if possible, we can help them by connecting them with resources or practical help. So yes, these are some things that we need to remember. Well,
exactly. I think those are really helpful approaches, worth remembering, especially when we are giving care to someone going through such issues in life. And like you have very clearly said, we may not have all the answers, but we can empathize, we can sympathize, and we can be there for people who are going through this. And thank you so much for highlighting those very helpful measures. Now imagine with me that there is a couple going through these pregnancy issues, whatever that may be, and they are struggling to find hope and find meaning in their pain. So if they are listening to you right now at this moment, what is that one word of encouragement or advice would you like to give to them?
So to anyone who is listening right now and going through pregnancy-related struggles, I just want to remind each and every one of you that you are not alone. I know it can feel like sometimes it can feel like no one truly understands you. No one truly understands you and what you're carrying. But then, please remember that you're more than this struggle, and then you're not defined by this struggle. And see, even when you feel like nothing makes sense, even when you feel like nothing is making sense, please know that God has not abandoned you, and that His love is constant, and His presence is still with you, even in the hardest and quietest time. So I want to encourage all of you, please do not carry this weight all by yourself. And then, please reach out to someone you trust, or lean on your community and allow yourself to be cared for, because you see, you're loved and you're not forgotten. Yeah.
Okay, we have talked lots about the issues that is related to pregnancy. So a few words to those who are facing challenges with pregnancy, whether it's infertility, a difficult pregnancy, loss of a baby, or unplanned situations. Your feelings of sadness, fear, confusion, or frustration are valid and understandable. I just want to remind you that life's journey is not always easy. Sometimes the path that we walk are filled with unexpected struggles. But Remember that you are deeply loved just as you are by God and by those who truly cares about you. You know, in the Bible, many figures, those who experience similar struggles, found hope and comfort in God's promises, and so you can reach out. So you can reach out to those who can support you, whether it's families, friends, professionals, healthcare, or a caring pastor or counselor. Healing takes time, and every step you take towards caring for yourself is important. Thank you.
Well, with those words of encouragement and advice, we come to the end of today's discussion. Let me also re-emphasize that bringing new life on earth can be quite meaningful and fulfilling, but not being able to conceive, well, I think that's another beautiful story in itself. You know, you can use your stories to inspire others who are going through similar situations in their lives. So keep living and keep hoping. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of S.A.L.T, talking about pregnancy issues. Once again, I am Himapan. Until the next time, stay safe, grow in grace, and remember you're greatly blessed and highly favored. Thank you.